Welcome to the Smart Real Estate Investment Podcast, Episode 1. This is really about me, a little bit of my history. Who am I? What do I mean to the world of real estate? And how can this podcast be of any help to you? So each week, this podcast is going to be live on Twitch, YouTube, Kick, Twitter, or X, many live streaming platforms. We will also be taking that live stream and putting it into a podcast version. That podcast will go live on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. I will be doing one stream every week, or really every single time I record an episode, I'll be doing the live stream. I will be tweaking this as I go. I'm trying to make sure, audio, camera, everything works out good. I'm trying to reach as many people as I can because a lot of people like to get that information differently. Some people prefer to listen to podcasts. Some people prefer to watch live stream and interact with the viewer. So what I'd like to do is, in addition to doing the podcast and live streaming, I'd like to save interacting with the chat to the very end to see if we have any questions or, comments, concerns. And then we can move forward with, the next episode, whatever that is. So a little bit about me. My name is Brian Graham. I'm from Maryland. I've been investing in real estate since 2018. I've been reading and learning about real estate since 2016. So we're really only about 7 years into this journey. But I have never taken on a partner. I have never set foot on a single property that I've purchased. Everything has been sight unseen, just using video, photo, and trusting the team that I've created. So it's pretty interesting of how we've grown to the place that we are. My 9-to-5 job that I'm in the rat race for is I'm a strength coach. I'm a soccer coach. Now I'm a real estate coach and a real estate investor. So those are the many different jobs that I have. And real estate coach, you may say like, well, you've only been involved 5 years. How can you possibly be a real estate coach? Well, when I first started investing in real estate, I didn't share that with many people, just those that were close to me. So, my very first property cost $93,000. I bought it for 15% down with a typical lender, and it was pretty much plug and play. I'll explain a little bit about how that went down, but when I started posting about it recently, within the last year, I started to get a ton of interest. Like, hey, I didn't know you did this. People reaching out to me through Twitter, people reaching out to me through Facebook, through Instagram. Hey, I didn't know you did this. Can you tell us, how'd you do it? And I'm spending all this time, and I said, well, hey, if I offered coaching, would you do that? There's gurus out there that are charging you $10,000 a month for this, $10,000 a month for that, $1,000 for this, attend this seminar. I'm charging people $125 a month. That's it. And the reason is I'm trying to spread as much knowledge and research, which has been countless hours, onto as many people as possible, so that way I can hold their hand through that buying process, and they now have a mentor to help them. Now, is Grant Cardone going to call me up and ask me for advice? Probably not. And I'm not really building this for that reason. I'm building this for someone who is scared to take their money and put it into real estate. And I'm here to hold their hand through the process of, hey, how can we take that hard-earned money that you've been working for, and how can we do our due diligence, find a property that you are interested in, and let's go start your real estate, career. So that's exactly what I did. I posted online. I started to get some interest from like family, friends, people I've known over the years. Actually, a couple of my college soccer teammates reached out to me. And so they reached out to me and said, hey, I'm interested in getting involved in real estate investing, but I don't really have a lot of time. I want to get involved, but I don't know where to begin. So that's my goal. Is I'm here to help people get involved in real estate investing and hold their hand from the beginning to end, doing due diligence, help you with underwriting. How can we make this as easy on you as possible, and so that way you feel confident in making your first investment? So that's really what this podcast is about. That's what real estate coaching is about. And we'll get in depth about taxes. We'll get in depth about it all, so that way you can feel confident moving forward with your investments. So like everything, nowadays when you talk about money online, you need to read a disclaimer, right? So this podcast is intended to give you my opinion. and is in no way, shape, or form meant to be investment advice. Rather, I'm not a financial advisor. The information during our coaching sessions is not intended as financial, legal, or professional advice. It is your responsibility to conduct thorough due diligence, seek the advice of qualified professionals, and make informed decisions based on your individual financial situation and goals. So it seems like every single time now you got to say something like that so that way you don't get sued, which is honestly the complete truth, because at the end of the day, you are the person that's pulling the trigger on making your investment, and you've got to do so. You've got to make sure that you've done the due diligence. So what to expect each week? So each week I'm going to be streaming live. I'm going to be posting these podcasts online, the video and audio. My philosophy is I've wanted to take real estate and have real estate pay for how can I take the real estate income that I make every month and pay my lifestyle? So when I got started, someone gave me a book for Christmas. My mother-in-law actually gave me a book for Christmas called How to Increase Your Financial IQ by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, it's just a different version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is almost, I would probably bet money that 90% of real estate investors, he's the godfather of real estate. 90% of investors have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But How to Increase Your Financial IQ is a very, very interesting book. It changed the way I thought about money. When I was a kid growing up, I always wanted to be a mechanical engineer. I was pretty good at math, and I just thought, hey, I want to be a mechanical engineer. And I'm figuring out, oh, they make 100,000 a year, 200,000 a year, and that was just a ton of money to me. Well, when I learned about taxes, and you learn about expenses, and you learn about insurance, mortgage, et cetera, you realize that 200,000 goes very quickly. So what am I going to do when that's gone? Do you invest the rest? Where do you invest it? What does an investment mean? So reading that book changed my life, because when I found out that I could buy a real estate rental property and I could make money 4 ways, that was mind-blowing. 4 ways. I make money through real estate investing through the appreciation value. So if I buy a property from and it costs $100,000, if it turns into a $200,000 property, I double the value of the investment. I double the value of the property. If my investment was 20%, that's 20 grand. If I made 100 grand, I actually 5x'd my investment. So the appreciation value of the property, tax benefits, which we'll get into what some tax benefits of real estate investing. So those are 2 ways. Third way, cash flow from the income, and then the equity pay down of your mortgage. So those are 4 ways you can make money in real estate investing. And when I learned that, it was mind-blowing, because if I put money, $1,000 a year, $1,000 a month even, into, let's say, the S&P 500, and I'm making 7 to 8%, that's only snowballing so much. If I put 10 grand a year, I'm making an extra $700. So what? To me, that just sounded like nothing. And then when it snowballs, 700 turns into an extra $56 at 8%. Like, it just didn't really make sense to me. So I thought, okay, what if I do real estate investing? What do those look like? And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Robert Kiyosaki started throwing out like 15, 20, 30%. You can double your money by selling the property for more later. And I thought, whoa, this is where I want to be. So then I take my first property, $93,000. I thought, okay, 93 grand, what does that mean? How I got involved, I spoke to somebody that I knew here in Maryland. I said, when I started reading about it, I started asking people, hey, do you own real estate? Do you have any rental properties? What does that look like for you? Blah, blah, blah. And people were getting back to me, no, or I had one and I sold it. It didn't work. These tenants this, these tenants that. Well, this one person I came across had 8 properties in Tennessee. Now, we live in Maryland. This is 8 properties in Tennessee. We're talking like a 13, 14-hour drive. And I was like, Tennessee? How did you even find that? How do you get involved in that? Did you go there? Like, what happened? So this is a very interesting company. This was a very well done business model. So this company buys rental properties. They buy properties that need to be flipped. This company will buy a property, let's say for $20,000. They'll flip it, put in 30. Now they're all in for 50. They'll sell it for 100, and then they will find the tenant for you, and then they manage it for you, and then sell you the property. So there are some positives and negatives to this situation. If I buy a property from a company that's just flipped it, the positive is it is a seamless transition. Not only did they just flip it, they guarantee the work for another year. They'll come back, they'll fix any issues, and then they'll manage it for me for however long I own it. So it is a seamless transition. They know the tenant, they've already vetted the tenant, they have a lease, they're managing the property for me. It is very, very easy for us to continue to move forward with each other. The negative is that I'm paying for that property top of market value and top of market value rent. So my growth potential is much less than if I possibly found a distressed property and did all of that work myself. So that company's doing the work and selling it to me. So I don't get that benefit, but the benefit is I'm just putting 15 to 20% down, and I may be getting anywhere between a 12 to 18% return, cash on cash return. And then my property should appreciate on average between 3 and 8% over the course of the life of the property per year. And those are dependent on the market that you're in. But that's the positive, is that it's a seamless transition. The negative is you don't get all of the benefit because that company's already taken a lot of that benefit doing the work themselves. So the one objective is you have to find a goal. You have to find out, what is your goal of real estate investing? What is your goal of that particular investment? Because if your goal is to reach $5,000 a month, you could do 10 of those properties and get to $2,000. You do 20, you get to $4,000. You do 40, you get to $8,000. So you can do that, those seamless transitions, but you could get there faster if you did that work yourself. And then you could get, instead of $200 a month, you might be making $500 a month. You might be making $10,000, $10 to $50,000 per flip in order to make $200 a month. So it depends on what your goal is and how much risk you're willing to take on. Obviously, if you're flipping the property, it's going to be a lot more work than just plugging your money and making $200 a month. So that due diligence and risk tolerance is very different from person to person. So I bought that property for $93,000. The guy that I had talked to about finding that property for me was, let's call him Joe. So Joe says, I have 8 properties, they're all paid off, and all my Robert Kiyosaki books tell me that debt is good. You can make the most money using debt, using a mortgage. So then I go back and I'm like, hey, well, why do you have these paid off? You can make a lot more money with debt. He's making $700 a month. If he cash out refinanced all that debt, he could be turning that into $6,000 a month. That's probably exaggerated, probably more like $3,000 or $4,000 a month, but it's better than $700 a month that he was getting per property. So his response was he just doesn't like debt. He just wants to pay down debt. And so I said, okay, that to each their own. Everybody is risk tolerance is valuable. What are you willing to go to sleep at night? Can you go to sleep at night knowing that you're in debt on 8 different properties? Me personally, yes, I do it right now. I have 9 properties. I'm under contract. I have 8 properties. I'm under contract on property 9 and 10, and I have debt on them all. So actually one is owned free and clear, but I'm going to have debt on it. I'm going to do a cash out refinance. So my risk tolerance is very high because I'm a person. Real estate is a business, is a people business. Don't get me wrong, but do not lie. If my property shows that it can pay for itself and provide cash flow, that's most likely a good investment for me. And my properties do that. So I'm in that mode right now of snowball, and I can go to sleep at night knowing, even though I'm in debt, my properties are producing income. And so that's my risk tolerance and philosophy. His was different. He did not want debt. He wanted to pay down that debt as much as possible. So I thought, okay, that's fine. So what did that look like? Can you give me the contact information? Who do I talk to? I didn't know anything. I knew only what books would tell me, but I was as knowledgeable as you could be without actually having done it. So then I spoke to the guy who was selling the properties, and he says, yeah, what we do is we flip the property for you, we sell it to the investor, and then what we do is we manage it for you. And I said, oh, that sounds great. Can I have some closing cost help? And he said, no, no negotiation. He said, we don't need to do that. We have a list of investors, and I know it's typical that sellers may offer some closing cost help, but we're not going to do that because we have a list of investors that are ready to buy. So I had to make the choice. Do I want to do the work myself, or do I want to make it easy on myself? So at the time, because it was my first property, I thought, let's just do it. I bought the property for $93,000. I went to a bank and I shopped around to a few different banks. One bank let me do 15% down. So whatever the math is, 15% of 93,000, you're looking at 14 grand and change. And I had to do closing costs. So add another 4.5%, I'm all in for about 18 grand. So that was my first initial investment, and it scared the hell out of me. It was the very first real investment I ever made. I've paid off a car loan before for 7 grand. I've invested, a few thousand in the stock market, but $18,000 to buy a rental property where now I'm responsible for the welfare of someone else. I've got to make sure that property is maintained because that person's living there. That's a lot of responsibility, and that scared me. But it was okay. It did work out. I had the property for 2 years. On the 23rd month, a month before I'm about to sell it, 23rd month, a water heater went out and it cost me $1,500 to repair. It sounds like a lot of money, and people say, there you go, that's why you don't do it. But I had made $200 a month for 2 years, $4,800 minus $1,500 water repair. I'm profiting $3,300 over 2 years. People are like, that's nothing. Like, what is that going to do? That's not going to change your life, $3,300. That is true. But I sold that property 2 years later for $122,000. So the real profit was I had $3,300 a month cash flow, $3,300 over 2 years of cash flow. I sold the property for $30,000 more than I bought it for. So we're talking about more than doubling my investment. If you count my closing costs, okay, so it wasn't quite double. But I had 2 years of equity pay down, so we're talking about $50 a month, $600 a year, give or take. And then we're talking about tax benefits over the course of that time. So all the money I made in that was tax-free, the cash flow, that is. Then I went and took that $30,000 profit and all the equity now. So we're talking about a total of, between 40 and 50 grand of equity, cash flow, the appreciation value, 40 to 50 grand. And I snowball that through a 1031 exchange. I buy 2 more properties, tax-free, don't have to pay taxes on the $30,000 gain, nothing. And we will explain that in a different podcast when we talk about 1031 exchanges and tax benefits. But that was when it really hit me that real estate could be the one investment vehicle for my wife and I. So we cash in our IRAs and we go all into real estate. We went from 1 single family home to 2 properties and 5 units, and then we sold those and snowballed even more. So right now, our investment portfolio sits at 18 units with just under $2 million transacted real estate over the last 5 years, and we have not taken a single dollar from another person to invest. We have done private lender deals, like outside of banks using individuals, but all the equity is ours. And I'm actually under contract for units 19 through 22 right now, 2 separate properties, both are duplexes. It is by no means what you would call like a massive portfolio, but in 5 years to use no one else's money and to snowball with our own, I'm really proud of that. And it's taken a lot of work. And the reason I started this podcast is to tell all of you that can be you too. As long as you are disciplined, you do your due diligence, you stay strict with yourself, you stop wasting $400 a month on crap like alcohol and junk, you can do that too. Because if that's what your lifestyle wants to be, which I think it's a horrible lifestyle anyway, but if that's the lifestyle that you want, get to $6,000 a month of real estate income and then go do that. Then you're not complaining about waking up in the morning and having to go to work and blah, 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 and not complaining about the income from your boss. So I just wanted to explain a little bit this first episode of The About Me. My podcasts are going to be anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes long. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Kick, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. I will be going live mainly on Twitter, YouTube, Kick, Twitch, and then I will take the live feed and I will put it on Spotify, Apple, and Google. So on the different platforms, you can actually find different usernames. So like, for example, on Twitter and Instagram, on Twitter, I am Brian, REI Brian 5. And then on the other social media platforms, you can find me at Smart RE Investment. So I would recommend that you also join our Discord at Smart RE Investment is the Discord. You can find the link in my Twitter bio. You can find the link in my Instagram bio. And if you can't find the link, send me a DM on any of the social media platforms. I'd be happy to reach back out to you. We currently have 5 people in the Discord, and it's growing every day. I'm getting DMs from people all over the place about, moving forward with real estate investing. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we will continue to grow this, and to the point where I hopefully have some other real estate investors on the podcast to share their experiences, whether that is flipping, wholesaling, buying rental, cash flow properties, you name it. I hope to have a different expert. There's Section 8 investors as well. There's people that are managers, management companies. Our goal is to find different experts, talk to these people, let's get their opinions, and show you that there are many different ways to make money in real estate. As long as you do your due diligence, you stay disciplined, and you're smart. Listen to them. That is the most important thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks.